So, but the part of the Maamar that we're going to learn now, that we're going to continue from Monday, is the part of Maamar that's going to delve into the idea of Simcha, which we raised a little bit on our Monday Shiur. And this is a Maamar based on a Maamar that the Rebbe Rashab said at his son's wedding, at Friedrich Rebbe's wedding, on the 13th of Elul, a few days ago. And we spoke about a few topics concerning Samach, Tesamach, Re'im, Ahuvim, that according to Kabbalah, Re'im, Ahuvim is referring to the spheres of Chachma, Bina, and we're talking about that you need to bring extra Simcha into Chachma, Bina, even though Chachma, Bina have their own Simcha. Bina has to do with Simcha because Ema Ban Mismecha, the mother of the children, which the level of Bina, his mother, has Simcha on its own. And Chachma is a level of delight which is even higher than joy. Still in all, there's a different level of Simcha. There's a Simcha that is even higher than what they have innately. And that extra joy that we are bringing into Chachma Bina brings that from Chachma Bina, which we know they're the source of the midos, they cause that the midos known as Zun, Zav, and Nukva should come out more in a revealed state through the Simcha. This corresponds to the idea that the Chasana is a time of joy, and by having Simcha, by a wedding, we are enabling and giving the couple the koyach to be able to join and bring about the revelation of children. So now we're going to go to the idea of the importance of joy and different levels of joy. So we're holding the second page of your copies, Ois Daled, 2 lines from the bottom of the page, 3rd paragraph on the page. The idea behind this is that we said that you need to have additional Simcha over and above what Chachma Bina has on its own, so that it should be able to have the revelation into the midos. So he says, the service of Hashem has to be with joy. Like it says, even if Hashem besimcha, you should serve Hashem with joy. And also it says, since you did not serve Hashem your God with joy and gladness of heart. It's a pasuk in this week's parsha, and because of that, there were negative consequences. What we see from that is the crucial and essential part that joy has in the service of the Eibishter. So he says, top of the next page, since we know that when a person serves Hashem, it's not just limited to things that are specifically prescribed in the Torah or indicated in the Torah, this action, that action, and so on. But every matter of the person's existence, a person needs to serve Hashem. As it says, all your actions should be for the sake of heaven. That means whatever actions I do, it says, your actions, the actions that a Yid does, has to be for the sake of heaven. Even more so, you need to know him in all your ways. The Rebbe in many places explains how knowing Hashem in many ways is greater than even doing things for the sake of heaven. Doing things for the sake of heaven means what I'm doing now is not heavenly, except I am doing it for an outcome that's going to be heavenly. So for example, I am eating. The eating is not necessarily heavenly, but with the energy I receive from the food, with that I'm going to be able to daven, to learn Torah, to do mitzvahs, so it's for the sake of heaven. Whereas means, as the Rebbe in many places explains, that means that I see the divine and the spirituality and the holiness in the activity itself. They're your ways, but you are knowing Him in your ways. So the point is that a person needs to serve Hashem 24/7. Every aspect, every point in his life, every part of his day is for the sake of Hashem, is manifesting Hashem, and so on. To such a degree, that this service of Hashem is the goal of His entire creation. I was not created only to serve my Maker. So it's not just there is my existence, and then on top of that, I have an additional purpose. No, my entire existence is bound up with serving the Eibishter. Based on that, if every component of if every activity I do, and every component of my being is there for the service of Hashem, so therefore there cannot be a moment that I'm not besimcha, since I have to serve Hashem with joy, and every moment in my existence and every particle of my being is a part of my service to Hashem. Hari Nimsa, third line from the top, comes out, that a person always has to be in a state of joy. So now the Rebbe breaks it down. True, always, every moment a person has to be in joy, but there are different aspects and levels of joy depending on where and when. So he says, when it comes to joy, there are different levels. There are unique places that are considered places of joy. There is what the Chazal refer to as a dwelling of Simcha. There's halachas about what, in certain times of mourning, what types of buildings one may build. An extreme case or an extreme example of a building of joy is the way it was customary at one time. The parents would build, or a couple would build a house for themselves to move in once they got married. And that's called a binyan shel simcha. So there are locations, there are physical areas that are located with joy. Also, there is v'cheinu b'negel zman, so too concerning time, that there are certain times that are more joyous. Now again, this doesn't come to exclude, let's say, just like by the building, it doesn't mean that in other buildings, in other locations, in other areas, the person is not supposed to be joyous, but there are certain areas where the joy is much more so. The same thing in time, even though that the person always has to be joyous, tamid, like the Rebbe said before, always, but in that itself, there's different levels of that simcha. Yes, there are unique times, special times. Shehem yamim tovim, yam tovim sheim moedim l'simcha. They are called in davening. The Chazal established that we call them their yam tovim, appointed days for joy. And in these appointed days for joy, the yam tovim, v'gam bahem gufa yesh chilukim dargis. There's also different levels amongst the yam tovim. Like the Yom Tov of Sukkot, which in addition to being just Moyadim L'Simcha, we know that its description and davening is the time of our rejoicing. Other Yom Tovim, like Shavuos, is called Zman Matan Toreseinu, the time of the giving of our Torah. The time of Pesach is called Zman Chereseinu, the time of our freedom. Sukkot, in addition to it being in the general category of Moyadim L'Simcha, of Yom Tovim appointed for joy, is also it's individually and specifically has its own joyous definition. And in Sukkot itself, or Befrat B'Simchas Beit Sheva, especially during the rejoicing of the house of drawing, that they used to rejoice when they would draw the water that they would use in the Beis HaMikdash to pour as a water libation on the Mizbeach during the offering of the Karbanos on Sukkot. That the Chazal say, the Mishal Loira, Simchas Beis Sheva Loira, Simcha Miyamav, whoever did not witness the joy of the house of drawing water, never saw joy. So we see that this was a joy that was over the top. They would dance with torches of fire. They would juggle fiery torches. The avukis shel oir hem bechinas chachma, spiritually, apichsidis, and so on. Oir, we know, is associated with chachma. And the Inyan Harikud ba'avukis yam shachav the bechinas chachma bina. The dancing is drawing down the level of the light of chachma into the level of bina. And so this is a very great level. Now, in this rejoicing, in the very rejoicing at the time of Simchas Beis Sheva, there were also different levels. The Gamba Simcha Gufi Yesh Cheluki Dargis, also in this joy, there are different levels. The ones that actually participated, the ones that actually danced, and so on, were only the greatest sages amongst the Eden. And the entire people would come to see and only to hear. So their participation in the Simcha was mainly by witnessing it, whereas the dancing was left up to the Chachamim. Further level, higher level in joy, and especially the Simchas Torah, the joy of the Torah. Simcha the Simchas Torah, Nailis Yosef Gamma Simcha the Simchas Beis Sheva Kedisel B'Chtei Torah. The joy of Simchas Torah is even higher than the joy of Simchas Beis Sheva, like it's brought down from the Alter Rebbe and B'Chtei Torah. Va'ad sheshmoi shel Yom Zeh, until the very name of the Yom Tov, not like Sukkot, that has a name called Sukkot, but the Yom Tov of Simchas Torah is called Simchas Torah. The Shmoi shall call Davar Moedal and Yonah Mechayusay. The Alter Rebbe explains in Shaykh Mugah that the name of any item that indicates the meaning and its life force and vitality. So we call that day, we call it Simchas Torah. So that's the only Yom Tov throughout the Jewish calendar that's actually called by the name Simcha, which indicates how much and how powerful the Simcha is associated with the Yom Tov. So now the Rebbe says, the Mekol Zeh, Muvan Shesh Kama V'Kama Dargis V'Simcha. From all of this that we see, that there are different locations and there are different times, so we understand there's many different levels of Simcha, from the baseline Simcha that everybody has to be always, till reaching a highest level of Simcha, for example, by Simchas Torah. But in general, joy is divided into two general levels. I think this is something new that we haven't discussed in previous shiurim on Simcha. Simcha shemurkeves be'ezeh davar. There is a Simcha that's a complex Simcha that's combined from and with something. For example, a person could be joyous because they comprehended an idea, etc. So it's a Simcha, it's a joy that is not of the essence, it's something that is the cause for the joy. So the joy is mixed in with something else that's causing it. The Simcha Zu, such a joy, which is called a Simcha Murkeves, it is in the external revealed soul powers of the person, Vihi begeder Hagbola, and it has still, finds itself in boundaries and limitations, because since it's being caused by something, if you will, external, so to the degree that that external thing brings about and causes the person joy, that's the degree that the joy will be. So if it's a smaller thing, so it will be a smaller joy. And if it's a bigger thing, it'll be a bigger joy. But that itself indicates that there's a limit to it. Then there's another level of joy, the Simcha Atzmis, then there's an essential joy. Shehi v'ikra be'etzma nefesh. Its location and it's primarily found in the essence of the soul. And such a joy is Shalamayla Megeder Hagbola. It's beyond the whole entire category of limitation. The idea of limitation doesn't apply by the joy that emanates and that is located in the essence of the soul. So now when I say he continues with a classic phrase that really comes from that Maamar, if I remember correctly, that Maamar that the Rebbe Rashab said at his son's wedding. This will be understood according to what's explained in that Maamar. The nature of joy is to break boundaries and barriers. Simcha put together, the Rebbe often says that. If I remember correctly, the source, the first time this has been put forward is in that Maamar of the Rebbe Rashab. I'm not positive, maybe there are earlier sources, but I think that is the classic source for it. What does it mean that the nature of joy is to break through barriers and boundaries? Hainu kol hagdor v'agbar l'shebenefesh. Every barrier, every boundary that the soul has, joy breaks through it. And over there in that Maamar of the Rebbe Rashab, he explains two ways and two manifestations of this. Oifena Aleph, one way how this is and takes place is Shasimcha Peiretzes Hagdorim Shenasu Ba'odam Mitzad Shehurgolkei. That the joy breaks through the barriers and boundaries that occurred in a person because that was formed by habit. Hagam Shahagdorim Elu Nasu Etzlo Keteva Ki Hergel Nasu Teva Sheini. These limitations are, as they've already become nature to him, because we know habit can become second nature. So therefore, one level of joy that breaks through boundaries is artificial boundaries that the person created by becoming habitually accustomed to do things in a certain way, even though now it seems to him like nature, but it's not his true nature. Another way that the joy, or another level that the joy breaks through, the second type of way that joy breaks through barriers and boundaries, joy has the power and capability to break through also those barriers that are by nature from birth, not just second nature because he has habitually gotten used to it, but birth boundaries. To the degree that the power of Simcha is to transform them and to change them from one extreme to another extreme. This means to say the fact that joy breaks through the boundaries and the definitions, that's by his nature from birth. Not just that he limits and decreases those characteristics that were in the person's nature, they are now increased so much more so because of the joy. So in other words, let's say he has a nature to be kind. So through joy, he becomes even more kind. But not that way. That through the joy becomes a change in the nature of his character traits, from one extreme to another extreme, as the Rebbe will bring an example now. For example, someone that is a very great miser, very stingy by nature. That's the way he was born. During a time of joy, when he's very joyous, his heart will be completely transformed and changed over from his previous nature. He becomes very giving and very kind. Like someone, he becomes as kind as someone that by nature is a giving person and a kind person. Even to the degree that he will do kindness with someone that's his enemy. And we could say that his nature of kindness will transform, that he does kindness also with someone that Torah says he's allowed to be his enemy, whatever the situation is. It says in the Torah that if you'll see the donkey of your enemy collapsing under its load, and the Gemara speaks about how can a Jew have an enemy and so on. So there are cases that according to Torah you're allowed to have enemies. And even someone that by Torah standards he's allowed to have enemy, he's allowed to be his enemy, still in all, because the nature of joy, he can become a giving person and a kind person even to him. The Rebbe goes on and says as follows: also in the first type of joy, that joy breaks through barriers that come out of habit, not innate barriers, not innate natural tendencies. Tzarech Bir, the Rebbe says we need an explanation about this. Since every habit becomes nature, though it's only called second nature, seemingly one needs much time and much self-work to change this nature little by little. Chassidus is full of the idea about, especially Tanya, is all about changing our natures. We know the word that's brought down that the Friedrich Rebbe said Chassidus was made to transform the nature of our attributes. And this is the whole idea of Moyach Shalat Alev, and this is the whole process of davening to change ourselves. But it's not something that happens in a moment. So therefore the Rebbe asks, how is it in the capability of joy to change it in one moment, in 1 hour, even if it's a lower type of level of something he was accustomed to, it's not part of his nature, it's only second nature. If that's true, if it should be difficult even by something that's second nature, how much more so when we're dealing with the second type of group, when we're talking about when it's truly his nature, when it's his born nature. We need to understand how is it in the power of joy to break through the barriers that he was born with naturally, till it has the power to change it and transform his nature from one extreme to another extreme. Who and the idea behind this is like it's explained over there in that Maamar of the Rebbe Rashab, the Masha Simcha Peretz is gathered, the fact that joy breaks through barriers and boundaries, even in the first way, even when it's his nature that he was born with, only with such a type of joy that reaches the essence of the soul that's beyond the revealed soul powers. As we said, there is a simcha that's in the revealed soul powers, that's based on reason, that's a simcha murkeves, and then there's a simcha beyond the revealed powers. That's not a simcha that's murkeves, that's a simcha from the essence. That type of simcha is what's necessary to be able to transform in a moment what may take years for a normal person to change. Since the essence of the soul of a Yid is beyond the entire category of limitation and boundary, since the essence of the soul is connected with Hashem's essence, which is self-understood, that Hashem's essence is beyond any type of limitation. Therefore, the joy that's a result of the essence of the soul breaks through all boundaries, all limitations whatsoever. And now he's going to bring it back to what we mentioned from the previous Shiur on Monday. But again, even if you weren't there Monday, you're just here for the Simcha Shiur, Just hold on, we'll get back to the more about the Simcha. Oizvav, bottom of the page. Zeu, Samach, Tesamach, Re'emah, that's what we say by the Bracha, by Sheva Brachas. That we're asking Hashem to make rejoice the beloved friends, that we need to draw down the joy into Chachma Bina. That's what Re'im are, that's what the friends are. Though we mentioned that Bina being, that's the level of the mother of the Midas, so the Pasuk Ema Banim Smecha applies over there, so she's joyous already. And Chachma already has its own delight, and delight is even higher than Simcha. So why are we requesting from Hashem and the Bracha to make Chachma Bina rejoice if they have it already on their own? That joy that's in Bina and the delight that's in Chachma is Dugmas HaSimcha va'oinig mitzad koich sagiloyim. It's similar to the joy and the delight that's a result of the revealed soul powers. Therefore, there's a measure and boundary to it. There's a limit to it. And because there's a limit, we don't want to have just that level of joy. We want to have a joy that is beyond limitation. So the Rebbe is going to ask, according to Kabbalah, how can it be limited? Chachma is connected with higher than say the Rishtalshlos. Though the inner level of Chachma reaches the inner level of Atik, which is the inner level of Keser, which is connected by Hashem's essence. Especially the intention is not just the inner level of Atik, but rather until the first root to the inner level and the essence of the Ein Sof. So, Harei Inyan Zeh Shayach LeYichud Pnimi de Abba ve'Imo, this idea that Pnimius Abba reaches all the way to the highest level, that's only in a limited form. When there's this inner union and mating between Chachma and Bina, so then it touches that very high level. This union, this mating between Chachma and Bina on an inner level needs to awaken and draw down that level that's so high. And the Rebbe brings down what's brought down Kabbalah, this inner union between Chachma and Bina, even though Chachma gives Bina in an external fashion, this inner union, which needs to tap into this very high level, is only from time to time. So that means that in an ordinary Tuesday, Chachma Bina do not have a simcha from the level of the essence. They only have a simcha from the external revealed levels, similar to the joy that we can have down here, that's not from the essence, but rather a joy that's a simcha murkeves bezedover, a joy that's caused by some particular thing. That is why 4 lines from the bottom, this is what we daven to Hashem, we say under the chuppah and by Sheva Brachas, and we're asking Hashem, make rejoice the beloved friends, that should be drawn down to Chachma Bina, the essential joy, until the innermost and essence of the Ein Sof, that's completely beyond any category of limitations. Only that joy, the joy that comes from the essence, that breaks through all the barriers, like we mentioned before, that by a person down here, to be able to change his characteristics from one extreme to another extreme, he needs to have the joy from the essence, not the limited joy of the revealed soul powers. Through that becomes the inner union of Chachma Bina, their mating, like their marriage. And also this union will be a constant and ongoing union, thanks to the Bina and Chachma being influenced by the Simcha of the essence. Top of the next page, just a little bit more Kabbalah, and then we're going to get back into more down to earth. We said before, we mentioned this also at the beginning of the Maamar, that this is something, the union of Chachma, Bina, and so on, is something that's supposed to impact as well and cause about the revelation of the midas. Just like the marriage of the chassan and kala bring about the children. Top of the next page, the main point of this of this union of an internal fashion, this inner mating of Chachma Bina, this marriage of Chachma Bina, through that should be the marriage and union of the Midos and Malchus, that is what's primary, that's what the most important part. Like it's explained at length in the Maamar of the Rebbe Rashab, only in the union of Chachma, of the Midas and Malchus, which we say Midas and Malchus are represented by Chassan and Kala down here. Then you have you get the essence to come down, because just like through the union of Chassan and Kala down here, do you bring down the essence in the creation of a child. According to Kabbalah, the birth of neshamas is just like the birth of physical children. Just like the birth of physical children comes through the marriage of the Chassan and Kala, so too the union of the Midos and Malchus, what's called Yichud Zun, that causes the birth of neshamas above. But it needs to be preceded by the union of Chachma Bina that pushes and causes the union of Zun. Yichud Zun tzarich be able to be the union of the Midas. Tzarich liyas tchila Yichud Pnimi, the Chachma Bina, there has to be the marriage and mating, the inner union of Chachma Bina. V'zel Samach Tesamach reim hahuv. That's what it means. We're asking Hashem to make rejoice the beloved friends. Ahuvim b'gematria doidim zun. We brought earlier in the Maamar that ahuvim is the numerical equivalent of the word doidim, and doidim goes on Midas and Malchus. So even though reim is going on Chachma Bina, the purpose is that Midas and Malchus should join, Chassan and Kala should join and create neshamas. The request that it should be the drawing down of joy in Chachma Bina. Through that will be the inner union of Chachma Bina, who b'shvil Yichud Zun is for the sake of the union of Zeir Anpin and Nukva. Okay, now we're going to come down a little bit. We're going to land a little bit. We're going to leave behind all the Kabbalah and speak about what this Maamar was addressing. It was addressing a bracha that's recited under the chuppah, and it's recited throughout the Sheva brachas. It's one of the 7 brachas that we make on a cup of wine after benching for the 7 days after the marriage. So that is a bracha called Samach Tesamach reim ahuvim. We are wishing and telling and needing the joy to be brought down into this cup. Why is it necessary? Because this is crucial for the marriage, as we will explain. For what marriage needs to accomplish, joy is necessary. So he says in Oizayin, 2nd paragraph on page 5, according to this will be also understood the connection between this request and the joy of a wedding. In Yedua, it's known that the creation of something from nothing is only by the power of Hashem's essence. Only Hashem's essential being can create something from nothing. The Chola, Oiris Vagiluyim, all the lights that are emanated from him, all the revelations that come out from him, Mikivnu Sheyesh Lahem Eloi Sibal Kapanim, since all of them have a prior cause. So since they were created and they were made and they were initiated by something, they cannot create something, a yesh, that has no feeling and awareness of a cause, of a prior cause. In other words, our world is a yesh that has no awareness of a prior cause. Since all other levels in Seder Ishtalshlos, anything but Hashem's essence, were created and brought into being by a prior cause, they cannot convince and make a yesh that should think of itself that has no prior cause. It's impossible for any existence to give over something that's not in his or her capabilities. In other words, for example, if I don't know a certain topic, I cannot be asked to teach a certain topic. If I don't have $100 or I don't have $1 million, I cannot be asked to give someone $1 million. I don't have it. How can I give it? So the same thing, all these different levels need to convince or create a level that believes that there was nothing prior to it. Since they don't have such an experience, all the levels after Hashem's essence, they are incapable of making something that believes that it has no prior cause. And the coming into being of the Yesh is only by the power of Hashem's essence, because its very being and existence of Hashem's essence is from Himself. He has no prior cause that preceded Him, heaven forbid. So now that we've established that Hashem's essence is responsible for the entire creation, Yesh Me'ayin, drawing down Hashem's essence to constantly create the world something from nothing, that which began at the 6 days of creation, was because Hashem desired to do kindness. He didn't need anyone else to inspire Him to continually create the world. He desired to do it out of the goodness of His being. But post the giving of the Torah, so that this hamshacha, this drawing down of Hashem's essence that's necessary for creating the world yesh me'ayin constantly, every moment. Why the avodah the Torah mitzvahs is through the avodah that we do Torah mitzvahs that inspires Hashem to keep on investing in this process of creating the world yesh me'ayin. So now the Rebbe adds a very interesting nuance. Mitzvahs we have 613 mitzvahs. We have 87 mitzvahs that we can, or 86 mitzvahs, positive mitzvahs that we could do now, 365 negative. The Rebbe is going to point out that certain mitzvahs have more of an effect on bringing down Hashem's essence in the creation of Yesh Ma'ayin. So the Rebbe says, Yesh Loimer, we could say, Shebefrato begolui, especially, and in a revealed way, this drawing down of Hashem's essence necessary for the creation of Yesh Me'ayin, it's in those mitzvahs that are connected with the idea of the infinite, because the infinite has to do with Hashem Himself. For example, the mitzvah of being fruitful and multiplying, that is something that's connected with the infinite. Kidu, as it's known, the be'inyan ha'yolad, concerning giving birth, which means that we are giving birth to generation after generation. We're putting the ball into motion. That's not a one-time event. It's ongoing. My children are going to give birth to more children. Their children are going to give birth to further children. That's the revelation of the power of the infinite. So therefore, the mitzvah of being fruitful and multiply is a mitzvah that falls into the category that it has to do with the idea of bligvul, of the infinite. More so, not just about the infinite, but it's similar to the creation of something from nothing. Physicists brought down that giving birth is also similar to a creation of something from nothing that's in the power of Hashem's essence. So in addition to the infinity nature, because there's always the ongoing thing, my children give birth to further children and so on, the actual creation of a person comes practically out of nowhere. If you go trace it back to what it came from, it's out of nowhere. That is also bekoyach ha'atzmus. That's also by the power of Hashem's essence, like we said before, that how can there be something that can think that it came out of nowhere? Only by some being that truly didn't come from anywhere. So now, based on this, that certain mitzvahs have to do more with expressing and revealing the Atzmus power, the power of the infinite, Therefore, that is why we request by the joy of a wedding, Samach Tesamach Re'im Ahuvim, you should make rejoice the beloved friends, because the goal of the idea of marriage is there should be the idea of birth. That's the purpose of marriage. That's the whole concept behind the marriage, and that's why we have the idea of marriage. You should be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. That's why we request them that you should make rejoice the beloved friends, that we should draw down the essential joy of Hashem's very essence, because we need Hashem's essence to be able to give forth the infinite nature of having children, the yesh me'ayin nature of having children. So, like I mentioned last time, it's not that because they are happy during marriage, because marriage is such a happy event, that's why we have to be happy. And we even asked, aren't the chassan and kala already happy? Why is it a necessity to be misameach chassan v'kala? And we're asking Hashem to make them joyous. But here the point is something else. Here is the type of joy that's necessary, that taps into the essence of the soul and by extension to Hashem's essence. And we need to bring down Hashem's essence to be able to facilitate the infinite nature of birth and to facilitate the yesh me'ayin nature of birth. So therefore we are asking Hashem to draw down an essential happiness, not just the regular happiness that the chassan and kala come to the wedding with, or the natural happiness that the attendees have, but we're asking for the essential happiness that is the trigger and the cause for the purpose of marriage, which is birth. So 4 lines from the bottom. This is also what we say at the continuation of the bracha, that we say, make your beloved friends rejoice like the one who formed you made you happy in Gan Eden early on. In other words, Adam and Chava, he made them happy, the first chassan and kala in history. And Hashem married them off and led them to the chuppah. The drawing down of joy in Gan Eden at the beginning creation was just because Hashem desired to do kindness. And the fact that what we are asking right now, that we should draw down Hashem's essence, is through Torah mitzvahs. Like we said before, that's what's going to cause Hashem's essence to come down at creating the world, something from nothing. Ubefrat, and this is especially done when we fulfill the mitzvah of the wedding, Aidei Simchas Nisuyim, through the joy of the wedding. So Tiyam Shachazu should be this Hamshacha of Hashem's essential Simcha in the world. So now he continues, and just like it was by the day of his wedding, which Chazal say, that says in Shirashirim, Tzena v'rena b'nai Sion b'melch Shloimeh, go out and see daughters of Sion and the king Shloimeh, b'yom chasun nasai, in the day of his wedding. So the Chazal say, what's the day of his wedding? Zem Matan Torah, it's referring to Matan Torah as the day of his wedding, because again, that's when Hashem's essence is drawn down through Torah mitzvahs. Then by a wedding is a drawing down of the essential joy, and also by the through Torah mitzvahs is drawn down Hashem's essence. Like it's explained in that Maamar, the Rebbe Rashab, the primary joy that breaks through all barriers of Simchas Nisuyim is the joy of marriage. And the drawing down then, the marriage that drew down, the Matan Torah that drew down the joy, that was through our avodah. Why? When it's referring to the marriage, this is the giving of the Torah. It's not talking about the giving of the Torah on the 6th of Sivan. It's referring to the giving of the Torah that was the second tablets were given. It was given on Yom Kippur. The Inyan Luchas Shnius Umashanitmai the Avodah Davka, and the second tablet was given through Avodah, that we did tshuva for the sin of the golden calf, and that's why we earned this second tablet, whereas the first tablets were given as a gift. So we see that the Matan Torah, with which the Chasam is associated with Hashem's essence is associated with, has to do with what we earned. Val derech zeh, similar to what took place then by the giving of the second lucha, is similar to that b'kiyum kol mitzvahs, in the fulfillment of every mitzvah. Daidei kol mitzvah tzarich lis l'shem yichud gutsha b'richu shchintei. Through every mitzvah, we have to make a union between the Hashem's midos and malchus kedisa priyetz chayim. The reason why we only say l'shem yichud once before davening, because this statement is an ongoing thing for the whole day. So when we say l'shem yichud before Baruch Sha'amar, we're saying it for every mitzvah throughout the day. Since every single Jew is like an only child of Hashem, like the famous teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, and it says, "B'ni b'chayr Yisrael lashon yachid," my son, my firstborn Yid, in the singular, meaning every Yid is like the only son of Hashem. Every Yid is Hashem's firstborn son. Also by the giving of the Torah, every single Yid was told, I am Hashem, your God. It was said, your God in the singular. Therefore, if our relationship is that Hashem only with myself, undiluted with his relationship with other Yidden, the joy that Hashem derives in the fulfillment of every single yid, every single mitzvah of every single yid, he's Simchas HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chasnas b'nei yechidoi. Hashem is rejoicing in the wedding of his only son, because the wedding is, like we said before, the Yichud Kuchabrich Shchinta is the idea of a wedding. So we are marrying Hashem with every single mitzvah, and Hashem is rejoicing like a wedding day. The Simcha Zuper, is Kol Agdarim. This joy breaks through all barriers. And now the Rebbe is going to connect it with El. In the last paragraph, Tes, Befrat, B'chodesh El, especially in the month of El, when the king finds himself in the field with every single Yid, on the Kabbals, he greets everyone with a beautiful face, and he shows him a smiling countenance. El is the acronym for I am to my beloved is to me. Even the level of the beloveds, that's going on the midos and malchus, that their mating and union is only from time to time. Just like in a marriage, there's times when the husband and wife may be together and times not. But in the month of El, the Anila Doide V'Doide is all in one word, meaning that our union with our beloved is complete and constant and total. Moving to this understood. The noise of Allah in the Simchas Nisuyin, in addition to the idea of the joy of marriage. The union of Hashem and the Shechina, that's considered a marriage and a mating between Yidden and Hashem. Throughout the year, that's accomplished because of the fulfillment of the mitzvahs. Hine b'chodesh Elul, in the month of Elul, who be yeser se'eis, it's even more powerful. Ubefrat b'Shabbos b'chodesh Elul, even more so in the Shabbosin of the month of El. Hine b'chodesh Elul, toikim b'shayfar, in the month of El we blow shayfar. Kidei lahazir Yisrael sheyasu tshuva, to warn Yidden they should do tshuva. Shenemar, like it says, imitaka shayfar be'ir v'am lo yechradu, if the shayfar will blast in a city, will the nation not tremble? From this we see that El, in addition to the love, Anila Doidi V'Doidi Li, there's also the idea of awe and trembling. The awe and trembling, that's only during the weekday, because that's when we're blowing the shofar. Masha'enki ba Shabbos shebechodesh El, as opposed to the Shabbos in the month of El, harei inyan ha'yira v'charoda de El l'chura begilui ein b'Shabbos. The idea of awe and trembling of the month of El seemingly are not revealed on Shabbos. Shabbos ain't toikin, but Shabbos ain't eitzav ba. Shabbos we do not blow the shofar, and Shabbos there's no sadness and trouble and so on in it. The primary effect of El and Shabbos days, who are inyan da anila doidi v'doidi li, it's the idea that I am to my beloved and my beloved is to me, without the trembling of the shofar. Simchas nesuyim da Kadosh Baruch Hu Knesset Yisrael, the joy of the marriage of Hashem and the Jewish people. Moving for this understood, Shekol Yisafa b'Torah mitzvahs, every edition in Torah mitzvahs, ubafrat b'chodesh El, especially in the month of El, peretzes kol agdarim, breaks through all barriers, kol gam gidrei agolis, including also the barriers of the exile, the Chol Yisafa b'Torah mitzvahs, ubafrat b'chodesh El, peretz kol shinyanim lapech heipech agolis, that any addition in Torah mitzvahs, that the whole idea of Torah mitzvahs is to transform the exile. Memaheres is agula asida, it speeds up the future redemption. Vayom ahu gomer beis pamim yudke, and that day it will be Yihya. Yihya is twice Yudke, Haim Shagam Vavke, Yih K'may Yudke, even the midos which are hinted in the Vavke of Shem Yudke Vavke will be like Chachma Bina, K'may Yudke Zevagayo Tadir, just like Chachma Bina, which is the level of Yudke. They are always mated and joined. K'may Kim B'chinas Vavke Yuzevagayo Tadir, so too the midos and Malchus, their joining in union will be constant. Begula Asida, in the future redemption. Then there will be the idea of marriage, like it's brought down in the Medrash. Now it's the betrothal, the giving and the ring. When Mashiach comes, will be the marriage and the union, like under the chuppah between us and Hashem. Speedily in our days, Maamar.